an inverse ratio to mainspring.
You remember sitting in the dark watching a little mouse named Albert Einstein writing a letter he would never send. His tiny paws held a pen and his eyes were filled with shame and regret. You did not fully understand what he had done wrong, but you felt his sadness like it was your own. We grew up with Twas the Night Before Christmas. It was not as famous as Rudolph or Frosty, but somehow it hit different. It was quieter, more personal. It was about mistakes and forgiveness and the fear that you might have ruined everything forever. It was about a whole town losing Christmas because of one small act of doubt. But the story behind this 1974 Rankin Bass special is stranger and sadder than most people realize. The secrets hidden in those stop-motion frames will change how you see this forgotten classic. Some of these facts will shock you. Others will make you want to watch it again immediately. Before we dive into video, please subscribe to our channel. Twas the Night Before Christmas first aired in December of 1974, and it told the story of a town called Junctionville where everyone was preparing for a visit from Santa Claus. But then a letter gets published in the newspaper, a letter that says Santa Claus does not exist, and suddenly Christmas is canceled. Santa refuses to come. The whole town falls into despair. The special was based on the famous poem by Clement Clark Moore, but it added layers of emotion and conflict that the original poem never had. It became a story about faith and doubt, and whether saying something out loud can destroy the magic forever. Here are 20 weird facts about Twas the Night Before Christmas that you probably never knew. These are stories about creative risks and hidden meanings and the real-life pain that inspired some of the darkest moments in the special. And I promise you this. The last one will completely change how you see the ending. Fact 1. It was made during a dark time for Rankin Bass by 1974 Arthur Rankin Jr. And Jules Bass had already created some of the most beloved Christmas specials in history, but the television landscape was changing. Ratings were unpredictable, budgets were tighter. There was pressure to play it safe and repeat what had already worked. But instead of making another cheerful sing-along special, they decided to tell a story about losing faith, about a community that turns on itself, about the fear that you have gone too far and cannot come back. It was a risky choice, and some network executives were nervous. They worried it was too sad, too heavy. But Rankin and Bass pushed forward anyway because they believed audiences were ready for something deeper. Fact 2. The main character was a mouse named after a genius, Albert Einstein. The mouse was named after the most famous scientist of the 20th century. The real Albert Einstein had passed away in 1955, but his legacy was everywhere in the 1970s. He represented intelligence and curiosity and questioning everything. And that is exactly what the mouse does. He questions, he doubts. He writes a letter to the editor saying that Santa Claus cannot possibly exist because science proves it is impossible. He thinks he is being smart and logical. He does not realize he is about to destroy Christmas for everyone he loves. The name was not random. It was a commentary on how intelligence without wisdom can cause real harm. Fact 3. The special dealt with cancel culture before it had a name. When the letter gets published, the entire town of Junctionville turns against the mouse family. Neighbors stop talking to them. Children refuse to play with them. They are shamed and isolated and blamed for ruining everything. This was 1974, decades before social media, decades before the term cancel culture existed. But the special understood how quickly a community can turn on someone who says the wrong thing, how one mistake can define you, how public shame can feel like drowning. It was ahead of its time in exploring these themes, and it remains painfully relevant today. Fact 4. The clock tower was the heart of the story. Junctionville was built around a massive clock tower that the townspeople were constructing as a gift for Santa Claus. It was supposed to chime at midnight on Christmas Eve to welcome him. The entire community poured their time and money and hope into building it. But after the letter is published, Santa sends word that he will not be coming. And suddenly the clock tower feels like a monument to failure. The special uses the tower as a symbol of collective faith. When belief dies, the tower becomes meaningless. It is a brilliant piece of visual storytelling that gives the whole narrative weight and focus. Fact 5. Joel Grey voiced the narrator. The warm voice guiding you through the story belonged to Joel Grey. He was a massive Broadway star who had won both a Tony Award and an Academy Award for his role in Cabaret. He was one of the most respected performers of his generation. Having him narrate gave the special an instant credibility. His voice had a theatrical quality that made even simple lines feel important. He did not just read the script, he performed it. Every word was chosen carefully. Every pause was intentional. He understood that he was not just telling a story, he was creating an experience. Fact 6. The animation was done in Japan again, just like The Little Drummer Boy. This special was animated by a Japanese studio using the animagic stop-motion technique. Tiny puppets were built and moved frame by frame to create the illusion of life. The work was painstaking and slow. The artists in Japan never got the recognition they deserved. Their names were barely mentioned in the credits, but their craftsmanship is visible in every scene. The way the snow falls. The way the mice move their tiny hands. The way the clock gears turn. None of it was computer-generated. It was all done by hand with patience and precision and love. Fact 7. There were multiple songs written for it. The special featured several original songs, including one called Even a Miracle Needs a Hand. The music was composed by Maury Laws, who had scored nearly every Rankin Bass production. The lyrics were written by Jules Bass himself. The songs were not just filler. They advanced the story and deepened the emotion. Even a Miracle Needs a Hand became the theme of the entire special. It argued that faith alone is not enough. You have to take action, you have to work for the things you believe in. It was a message that resonated with audiences who were tired of waiting for miracles that never came. Fact 8. The Father Mouse was voiced by a legend. The voice of Father Mouse came from George Gobel, who was a beloved comedian and television host. He brought warmth and humor to the role, but also a deep sadness. You could hear the weight of responsibility in his voice. Father Mouse is trying to hold his family together while the whole town blames them for losing Christmas. He is ashamed of his son, but he still loves him. He is angry, but he refuses to give up hope. George Gobel played all of those emotions with subtlety and grace. It is one of the most underrated voice performances in Christmas television history. Fact 9. The letter scene was controversial. When Albert writes the letter saying Santa does not exist, some parents complained that it might make their own children doubt. They worried that hearing those words out loud, even from a fictional mouse, could plant seeds of skepticism. The creators defended the scene by pointing out that doubt is a natural part of growing up, that children eventually question everything including Santa, and that the special ultimately reaffirms belief. It shows that faith can survive doubt if you are willing to fight for it. The controversy faded quickly, but it revealed how seriously audiences took these specials. They were not just entertainment, they were part of how families understood Christmas. Fact 10. The special only ran 25 minutes. Just like most Rankin Bass productions, this special was only 25 minutes long, including commercials. That gave the writers very little time to establish characters and build conflict and resolve everything in a satisfying way, but they did it. Every scene mattered. Every line of dialogue moved the story forward. There was no wasted space, no unnecessary subplots, just a tightly constructed narrative that built to an emotional climax. It proves that great storytelling does not require hours of runtime. Sometimes all you need is focus and discipline and a clear understanding of what your story is really about. Fact 11. The snowstorm scene was terrifying. Near the end of the special, a massive snowstorm hits Junctionville on Christmas Eve. The wind howls, the snow blinds everything, and Father Mouse climbs to the top of the clock tower to fix the chimes, even though it might kill him. For a children's special, this scene was genuinely frightening. The tower sways in the wind, the wooden beams crack. Father Mouse nearly falls to his death multiple times. You watch it as a kid and your heart races. You are not sure if he will survive. It was a bold choice to put a beloved character in real danger, but it made the stakes feel real. It made the ending matter. Fact 12. Albert never got punished. One of the most interesting things about the special is that Albert is never really punished for what he did. He feels terrible. He apologizes. But there is no moment where his father yells at him or grounds him or makes him suffer. Instead, the special focuses on redemption and forgiveness. Albert learns his lesson not through punishment but through seeing the consequences of his actions. He watches his family suffer, he watches the town fall apart, and he decides on his own to make it right. That is a surprisingly mature approach to storytelling. It treats children like they are capable of understanding complex moral lessons. Fact 13. The clock chimes at midnight. The climax happens when Father Mouse finally gets the clock to work. It chimes at midnight on Christmas Eve just as planned. And the sound carries across the snowy night sky all the way to the North Pole, where Santa hears it and realizes that Junctionville still believes. That moment is pure magic. The chimes echo through the darkness. The music swells, and you know that Christmas is saved. It is one of the most satisfying payoffs in any holiday special because it was earned. The characters worked for it, they suffered for it, and when the clock finally chimes, you feel the relief in your bones. Fact 14. Santa almost did not come. Even after the clock chimes, there is a moment of doubt. The townspeople wait and watch the sky and nothing happens. Minutes pass, the children start to cry, the adults lose hope, and you genuinely believe that maybe Santa is not coming after all. That willingness to sit in uncertainty is what makes the special so powerful. It does not rush to the happy ending. It lets you feel the fear and the doubt. And when Santa finally appears flying through the snow, the joy is overwhelming because you were not sure it would happen. The special earned your tears by making you believe they might not be tears of happiness. Fact 15. The animation took over 6 months. Creating 25 minutes of stop-motion animation required more than 6 months of continuous work. Every movement had to be photographed individually. Every facial expression had to be adjusted by hand. The animators worked long hours in silence, moving puppets fractions of an inch at a time. The dedication required for this kind of work is almost unimaginable today. We live in an age of computer animation where entire worlds can be generated in weeks. But back then, everything was physical, everything was real, and you can see that reality in every frame. The textures and shadows and imperfections all add to the charm. Fact 16, it was not as popular as other Rankin Bass specials when it first aired. Twas the Night Before Christmas did well in the ratings, but it never reached the iconic status of Rudolph or Frosty. It was darker, more emotional, harder to market. Networks were not sure how to promote a special about losing faith, but over the years it developed a cult following. People who watched it as children never forgot it. They remembered the sadness and the tension and the relief when Santa finally arrived, and they passed it on to their own kids. Slowly and quietly it became a hidden gem, a special for people who wanted something deeper than just songs and snowmen. Fact 17, the Mouse family represented immigrant struggles. If you pay close attention, the Mouse family feels like outsiders in Junctionville. They are hardworking and hopeful, but they are also different. Smaller, easier to blame when things go wrong. Some critics have interpreted the story as an allegory for immigrant families trying to belong in a new community. When the letter gets published, the mice are immediately scapegoated. The town does not ask questions, they just assume the worst. It mirrors the real experiences of countless families who have been blamed for problems they did not create. Whether the writers intended this reading or not, the themes are there, and they add another layer of meaning to an already complex story. Fact 18. The special had a sequel idea that never happened. After the success of the special, Jules Bass reportedly considered creating a follow-up that would explore what happened to Albert as he grew up. Would he become a scientist? Would he continue to question everything? Would his faith survive into adulthood? The sequel never got made. Budget constraints and shifting priorities at the network meant the idea was shelved, but it is fascinating to imagine what it could have been. A story about a character wrestling with belief and doubt throughout his entire life. It would have been unlike any other Christmas special ever made. Fact 19, it still airs during the holidays over 40 years after its premiere. Twas the Night Before Christmas continues to appear on television during the Christmas season. It is not as ubiquitous as some other specials, but it is still there, still finding new audiences, still making people feel things they did not expect to feel. The staying power of this special proves that audiences hunger for stories with emotional depth. They want to feel something real. They want narratives that challenge them and move them and remind them why faith matters. Twas the Night Before Christmas delivers all of that in just 25 minutes. Fact 20, the final shot was changed at the last minute. The original ending was supposed to show Santa flying away into the night after delivering presents. A standard happy conclusion. But during the final stages of production, the creators decided to add one more shot. A close-up of Albert looking up at the sky with tears in his eyes and a smile on his face. That single image changes everything. It makes the ending about more than just Santa showing up. It becomes about a child learning that mistakes can be forgiven, that doubt does not destroy belief, that love is stronger than shame. The animators had to rush to create that final puppet expression, but they got it right. You see hope and relief and gratitude all at once. And in that moment, you realize the entire special was never really about whether Santa would come. It was about whether Albert could forgive himself. And in that final shot, you know that he has.